It was an ordinary spring day. 66 million years ago, dinosaurs ruled our planet. They had dominated the Earth for more than 165 million years. Giant herbivores peacefully grazed on the leaves of towering trees, while fierce tyrannosaurs hunted their prey. Flying reptiles soared through the skies, and enormous marine reptiles swam through the warm oceans. It was their world, and it seemed as though it would last forever. Dinosaurs were the most successful creatures in the history of our planet. They had survived countless ages, adapted to every environment, and spread across every continent. Nothing hinted at the disaster that was about to unfold on that peaceful spring morning. But high above the Earth, invisible to every living creature, a deadly visitor was approaching. It was a gigantic asteroid traveling from the depths of space, and only a few moments remained before it would collide with our planet. Within just 24 hours, the world of the dinosaurs would disappear forever. Today, we will tell the story of the most terrifying day in the history of our planet. We will reveal what happened during the final hours of the Age of Dinosaurs and uncover how scientists managed to reconstruct the events of that day almost minute by minute, even after 66 million years. To understand this incredible story, we must first imagine what the Earth looked like at the very end of the dinosaur era. Scientists call this period the Late Cretaceous. The planet's climate was much warmer than it is today. There were almost no polar ice caps, and warm, shallow seas covered large portions of the land. Vast forests stretched across the Earth, and the first flowering plants had already appeared, rapidly spreading across the continents. These forests were home to some of the most famous dinosaurs in history. The mighty Tyrannosaurus, one of the largest land predators ever to exist, roamed the land with its enormous jaws and razor-sharp teeth. Nearby, the three-horned Triceratops grazed peacefully, protected by its massive bony frill. Armored ankylosaurs carried powerful club-like tails capable of defending them from predators. Above them, pterosaurs soared through the skies, some with wingspans reaching up to 10 meters. Beneath the waves, giant marine reptiles known as mosasaurs ruled the oceans. It was a golden age of prehistoric life, a world filled with extraordinary creatures. None of them had any idea that their reign was about to come to a sudden and devastating end. To understand the true scale of this catastrophe, we must first understand the destroyer itself. It was an asteroid measuring approximately 10 to 15 kilometers in diameter. To put that into perspective, it was the size of an entire mountain racing through space. For millions of years before the fatal day, this asteroid quietly orbited within the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Then, at some point, the immense gravitational pull of Jupiter pushed it out of its stable orbit and sent it directly toward Earth. This cosmic traveler sped through space at nearly 20 kilometers per second, dozens of times faster than a speeding bullet. At such an incredible velocity, the asteroid crossed a vast distance to our planet, bringing with it one of the greatest extinction events in Earth's history. The asteroid covered the last millions of kilometers of its journey in just a few years. Then, at last, the fateful spring day arrived. The asteroid entered Earth's atmosphere. In a fraction of a second, it tore through the entire layer of air and slammed into the surface of our planet. The impact occurred in what is now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, near the Caribbean Sea. Imagine, for a moment, the final seconds before catastrophe through the eyes of a dinosaur. On that peaceful spring morning, a giant herbivorous dinosaur was calmly feeding on leaves beside a river. Perhaps it noticed a strange, bright object in the sky that was growing larger and brighter with every passing second. Moments before impact, the asteroid burst into a blinding light as it entered the atmosphere, brighter than 1,000 suns. For the creatures living near the impact site, that terrifying flash was the last thing they ever saw. Then came instant death. The impact itself lasted only a fraction of a second, yet it released an unimaginable amount of energy. The mountain-sized asteroid pierced Earth's atmosphere so rapidly that the air in front of it had no time to move aside. Instead, it was compressed into superheated plasma, reaching temperatures several times hotter than the surface of the sun. The force of the collision is almost impossible to comprehend. It released billions of times more energy than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. At the moment of impact, the asteroid instantly vaporized, along with a massive portion of Earth's crust. A gigantic crater nearly 180 kilometers, 112 miles wide and several tens of kilometers deep, was formed. Today, this crater is known as the Chicxulub crater, named after a nearby town in Mexico. The collision was so powerful that, for a brief moment, it nearly punched through Earth's crust. A colossal column of molten rock, dust, and vaporized debris shot high into the sky. Some of the ejected material was launched so high that it escaped Earth's atmosphere entirely and entered space. From the impact site, enormous shock waves spread across the planet in every direction. Every living creature within hundreds of kilometers of the epicenter was killed instantly. When scientists first proposed the theory that an asteroid from space caused the extinction of the dinosaurs, the scientific community responded with considerable skepticism. Many alternative explanations were suggested. Some believed that small mammals had eaten dinosaur eggs, preventing new generations from being born. Others argued that new diseases or epidemics had wiped them out. Another theory claimed that dinosaurs had simply become too large and clumsy to survive, eventually dying out through natural decline. Some even seriously suggested that ancient extraterrestrials had destroyed the dinosaurs, or that the dinosaurs themselves had somehow left Earth for another planet. The truth turned out to be far more dramatic. The decisive evidence supporting the asteroid impact theory was discovered by the father and son scientific team, Luis Alvarez and Walter Alvarez. They found a thin layer of an unusual element called iridium distributed across rock formations all over the world. Iridium is extremely rare in Earth's crust, but is found in much higher concentrations within asteroids. This iridium-rich layer appeared precisely at the geological boundary corresponding to the time when the dinosaurs became extinct. The story behind this remarkable discovery is fascinating. Luis Alvarez was a physicist and Nobel Prize winner, while his son Walter Alvarez was a geologist. In 1980, they were studying a thin layer of clay that separated two geological periods within ancient rock formations. To their great surprise, they discovered that this layer contained an extraordinarily high concentration of iridium, far greater than anything normally found on Earth. This unexpected finding would become one of the strongest pieces of evidence, proving that a massive asteroid struck our planet approximately 66 million years ago, triggering one of the greatest mass extinction events in Earth's history. Scientists discovered an extraordinarily high concentration of iridium in that thin layer of clay. This rare metal was present in amounts dozens of times greater than expected. The Alvarez team knew that iridium is extremely rare in Earth's crust, but abundant in asteroids and other celestial bodies. They made the bold proposal that all of this iridium had arrived on Earth from space, carried by a giant asteroid. At first, their theory was widely ridiculed. However, researchers soon began finding the same iridium-rich layer of the same age in geological formations across every continent. This proved that the event had been global. The final and most convincing evidence came with the discovery of the impact crater itself. Interestingly, the Chicxulub crater had actually been discovered years earlier by oil exploration teams searching for petroleum off the coast of Mexico, but no one had connected it to the extinction of the dinosaurs. Only later did scientists realize that this enormous crater buried beneath the seafloor marked the exact place where the age of the dinosaurs came to a sudden end. The discovery of the crater convinced the vast majority of scientists that a massive asteroid impact was the primary cause of the dinosaurs' extinction. It is important to note that scientists still debate some of the details surrounding this extinction event. A number of researchers believe that the asteroid was not the only factor responsible. Around the same period, enormous volcanic eruptions were taking place in what is now India. These eruptions continued for hundreds of thousands of years, creating a vast volcanic region known today as the Deccan Traps. The volcanoes released tremendous amounts of ash and toxic gases into the atmosphere. Some scientists believe these eruptions had already weakened Earth's ecosystems, making dinosaurs and many other species more vulnerable before the asteroid struck. According to this theory, the dinosaurs were already under severe environmental stress, and the asteroid delivered the final, devastating blow. Nevertheless, the majority of scientists agree that the asteroid played the dominant and decisive role. The Chicxulub crater, the worldwide iridium layer, and shock metamorphosed minerals discovered across the globe leave little doubt that this catastrophic impact from space was a primary cause of the extinction of the dinosaurs. Now, let us return to that terrifying day and explore what happened immediately after the impact. The first disaster to strike the planet was an immense thermal pulse. Billions of tons of molten rock, dust, and debris blasted high into the atmosphere during the collision eventually began falling back to Earth. As these superheated particles re-entered the atmosphere, they heated the air to extraordinary temperatures. Across the globe, the sky effectively became a gigantic furnace. Scientists estimate that the atmosphere grew so hot that Earth's surface was heated like an enormous grill. Forests across entire continents burst into flames almost simultaneously. Animals caught in open areas were overwhelmed by the unbearable heat and died within moments. It was a true global firestorm, an inferno unlike anything the planet had ever experienced. Many scientists believe that a large proportion of land-dwelling animals perished during these first few hours, either burned alive or suffocated by the thick smoke from the worldwide wildfires. The thermal radiation was only one part of the catastrophe. Because the asteroid struck a shallow sea, the impact generated colossal tsunami waves hundreds of meters high. These massive walls of water raced across the ancient oceans and crashed onto coastlines, sweeping everything in their path for tens of kilometers inland. At the same time, the collision triggered earthquakes more powerful than anything ever recorded in Earth's history. The entire planet shook so violently that the tremors could be felt on the opposite side of the globe. The impact also triggered widespread volcanic activity, as Earth's crust responded to the unimaginable force of collision. Yet the worst was still to come. Even the creatures that survived the initial firestorms, tsunamis, and earthquakes were doomed in the days, weeks, and months that followed. This leads us to one of the most fascinating questions of all. How were scientists able to reconstruct the events of a single day that occurred 66 million years ago? The answer lies in an extraordinary fossil site located in North Dakota, United States, where nature preserved an astonishing record of the final hours of the Age of Dinosaurs. The answer lies in an extraordinary place in the state of North Dakota, USA. This remarkable fossil site is known as Tanis. 66 million years ago, Tanis was located along the bank of a river near an ancient inland sea. It was here that nature preserved an astonishing snapshot of the very day the dinosaurs' world came to an end. When the asteroid struck what is now Mexico, nearly 3,000 kilometers away from Tanis, it generated more than just a tsunami. The impact created an enormous surge within the inland sea. This massive wave rushed upstream with incredible force, instantly burying everything along the riverbanks beneath thick layers of sediment. When paleontologists excavated the site, they uncovered something truly extraordinary. They found thousands of exceptionally well-preserved fish that had been buried alive within the first minutes or hours after the asteroid impact. But the most astonishing discovery came when scientists examined the fish's gills. Trapped inside them were countless tiny glass spheres. These microscopic beads were actually droplets of molten rock blasted into the atmosphere during the asteroid impact. As the molten material flew through the sky, it cooled and solidified into tiny glass particles before falling back to Earth like fiery rain. The fact that these glass beads were lodged inside the fish's gills revealed something remarkable. The fish were still alive and breathing as the molten debris rained from the sky. They inhaled the water along with these tiny glass particles before dying. This means the fish perished within the very first hour after catastrophe, making Tanis one of the most precise records ever discovered of the final day off the dinosaurs. The Tanis site became a true time capsule, allowing scientists to reconstruct the first hour of Earth's greatest extinction event with astonishing detail. This incredible location was discovered and carefully studied by paleontologist Robert De Palma, who began excavations there in 2014. Over many years of painstaking research, he and his team gradually pieced together the sequence of events that unfolded on that catastrophic day. In addition to fish containing glass beads in their gills, researchers found uprooted trees mixed together with both freshwater and marine organisms, powerful evidence of the gigantic surge that rushed inland. Scientists also discovered fragments that may represent pieces of the asteroid itself, preserved inside ancient tree resin. Some researchers even believe that Tanis contains the remains of dinosaurs that died on the very day of the impact, although this claim remains a subject of scientific debate and requires further evidence. Regardless, Tanis is considered one of the world's most significant paleontological sites, a unique window into a single day that occurred 66 million years ago. Even more remarkably, studies at Tanis allowed scientists to determine not only the year, but also the season in which the catastrophe occurred. By examining the growth rings preserved inside the bones of ancient fish under powerful microscopes, researchers identified patterns similar to the annual growth rings found in trees. These growth rings revealed that the asteroid struck during the spring season. Ironically, it was during the season of renewal, growth, and new life that the age of the dinosaurs came to its devastating end. This timing made the disaster especially destructive because spring is a period when many animals breed, lay eggs, and raise their young. An extinction event occurring during this critical season would have dealt an even greater blow to future generations of countless species. The ability to determine not only the age, but even the exact season of an event that happened 66 million years ago stands as one of the greatest achievements of modern science. It demonstrates that geology and paleontology continue to uncover extraordinary discoveries, even in today's age of advanced technology. Now, let us return to what happened on Earth in the days and weeks after the asteroid impact. If the first few hours were a living hell of fire and destruction, the months that followed became a nightmare of darkness, freezing temperatures, and global collapse. The impact hurled an enormous amount of dust, ash, and soot from the global wildfires into the atmosphere. These particles rose high into the sky, forming a dense veil that surrounded the entire planet and blocked out the sun. Earth was plunged into a long, artificial night that lasted for months and possibly even years. Without sunlight, global temperatures dropped dramatically, creating what scientists call an impact winter. The most devastating consequence, however, was that plants could no longer perform photosynthesis. As a result, vegetation began to die on a massive scale. Since plants form the foundation of every food chain, their disappearance triggered a catastrophic collapse of Earth's ecosystems. Herbivorous dinosaurs soon starved because there was nothing left to eat, and the carnivorous dinosaurs that depended on them quickly followed. An ecological system that had taken millions of years to evolve collapsed within just a few months. Like a house of cards, it is important to understand that the extinction of the dinosaurs was not the only mass extinction in Earth's history. Scientists recognize at least 5 major mass extinction events throughout the history of life on our planet. Surprisingly, the extinction that wiped out the dinosaurs was not even the deadliest. The most catastrophic event occurred about 252 million years ago, at the end of the Permian period. During that extinction, nearly 96% of all marine species and around 70% of land species disappeared. Life on Earth came dangerously close to complete annihilation. That catastrophe was caused primarily by enormous volcanic eruptions. Compared to it, the dinosaur extinction, which eliminated approximately 75% of all species, was somewhat less severe, although no less dramatic. Each of these great extinction events completely reshaped life on Earth. After every catastrophe, new forms of life evolved to occupy the ecological niches left behind, allowing evolution to begin a new chapter as a result of the asteroid impact and the chain of disasters that followed. Around 75% of all living species on Earth disappeared. Every non-avian dinosaur that had ruled the planet for more than 165 million years became extinct. Giant marine reptiles and flying pterosaurs also vanished forever. Countless species of plants, insects, and marine organisms disappeared as well. An era that had lasted 165 million years came to an end in what was, on a geological timescale, almost an instant. It marked the end of an entire world. Yet, as often happens in Earth's history, the end of one age became the beginning of another. Whenever people hear about such a massive extinction, they often ask an important question: how did anything survive such catastrophe? The answer is both fascinating and surprising. The creatures that survived were, for the most part, small and adaptable. Among the most successful survivors were tiny mammals. During the age of the dinosaurs, mammals were no larger than modern mice or rats. They lived hidden underground in burrows, which protected them from the initial heat wave and the devastating wildfires. They were able to survive by feeding on seeds, nuts, insects, and decaying organic matter when fresh vegetation had disappeared. Along with mammals, some species of birds also survived, and birds are, in fact, the direct descendants of dinosaurs. Crocodiles, turtles, snakes, lizards, fish, and many insects also managed to endure the catastrophe. In the end, being small, adaptable, and able to survive on limited food proved far more valuable than enormous size or physical strength. And this is where the story takes its most remarkable turn. The extinction of the dinosaurs cleared the way for those tiny mammals to flourish. As long as giant dinosaurs dominated the Earth, mammals remained small, hidden, and insignificant. But once the dinosaurs disappeared, countless ecological niches suddenly became available. Mammals rapidly diversified and evolved into larger and more specialized forms. From those small burrowing creatures, eventually emerged the ancestors of elephants, whales, horses, predators, and primates. Tens of millions of years later, one branch of those primates would eventually give rise to humans themselves. IT leads to an astonishing conclusion. If that asteroid had never struck Earth 66 million years ago, dinosaurs would most likely have continued to dominate the planet, and human beings might never have evolved at all. If the asteroid had never struck Earth 66 million years ago, dinosaurs would most likely have continued to dominate the planet. Mammals might have remained small creatures hiding in underground burrows, and humans may never have evolved at all. In a remarkable way, our very existence may be the result of that ancient catastrophe. Studying the last day of the dinosaurs is important not only for understanding Earth's past, but also for protecting its future. Asteroids still travel through space today, and in theory, another large object could collide with our planet at any time. That is why scientists constantly monitor the skies. Around the world, specialized programs search for and track potentially hazardous asteroids, carefully mapping their orbits and calculating the probability of future impacts many years in advance. Humanity has even begun developing ways to defend itself against such threats. In recent years, scientists successfully carried out an experiment in which a spacecraft deliberately collided with a small asteroid to alter its orbit. The mission proved that, at least in principle, it is possible to deflect a dangerous asteroid before it reaches Earth. Unlike the dinosaurs, who were completely helpless against a cosmic threat, humanity now has a chance to protect itself. By studying the extinction of the dinosaurs, we learn how to avoid sharing their tragic fate. Perhaps the greatest lesson from the dinosaurs' last day is that life on Earth is both incredibly fragile and astonishingly resilient. On one hand, a single day and one collision with a celestial object were enough to destroy creatures that have ruled the planet for 165 million years. It reminds us that even the most successful and dominant forms of life are vulnerable to sudden catastrophe. No species is guaranteed survival forever. On the other hand, life itself did not disappear. It endured, adapted, and evolved into new forms. From the ashes of the dinosaur extinction emerged an entirely new world, the Age of Mammals, which eventually led to the appearance of human beings. This is the extraordinary resilience of life. Even after the most devastating disasters imaginable, life finds a way to recover, adapt, and begin again. The last day of the dinosaurs marked the end of one magnificent world, but also marked the beginning of another, our own. Whenever we look at the birds flying outside our windows, we should remember that they are the direct descendants of the dinosaurs that survived that terrible day and carried the spark of ancient life across 66 million years to the present. Every sparrow, every crow, every eagle soaring to the sky is a living descendant of those mighty reptiles that once ruled our planet. Truth. Dinosaurs never disappeared completely. A part of them still lives among us in the form of birds. And perhaps that is the most inspiring conclusion of this incredible story. Even after one of the greatest catastrophes Earth has ever experienced, life found a way to continue, to adapt, and to flourish once again. Perhaps that unbreakable resilience in the face of every challenge is the greatest miracle of our extraordinary planet.